From the Channel Seed Studios, welcome to The Hook. A look behind the lines with Mike Palm and Ken Miller. Powered by Circa Sports Iowa. Sports betting the way it should be. This is Iowa Everywhere.
Channel Seed. Seedsmanship at work.
Welcome back. It is time for another weekly episode of The Hook. My name's Ken Miller. That's Mike Palm, Vice President of Operations at Circa Sports. You can hear me along with my partner Trent Condon on the radio in Des Moines, 11 to 1, Monday through Friday, as we talk sports on Des Moines Sports Station, 106.3 KXNO. Well, Mike, spent a couple of days with you early in the week. It's good to see you again. Busy day. The NFL schedule is about to be unveiled. We're about, minutes away from that coming out officially, so we'll react to it next week. But once the schedule comes out, what does that mean for the folks at Circa?
It's a lot of work behind the scenes, and we're doing it now already as the parts of the schedule are leaked out, obviously, especially those involving the Raiders and when certain teams will be in town, the Packers, the Vikings, the Giants, the Jets, in addition to when the AFC West opponents are coming. It affects hotel rates. It affects pricing at Stadium Swim. It affects pricing in the book. And then overall, the schedule and how they handle the holidays obviously affects our contest. So Jeff Benson is busy with several scenarios for rules that he will forward off to us later tonight once he sees the whole schedule when it gets released here in the next hour.
Yeah, there's been some leaks. How much stock do you put into them, Mike? What we've seen, I know when Schefter puts some out, I can buy those, but there's, so many people that have 1,100 Twitter followers, and I'm not minimizing what they're doing, but do they really have good information?
I don't know, a lot of this is accurate. What's going here, especially the teams are allowed to leak a few here and there. Certain teams, it looks like their whole schedules are out. Mm-hmm. So these are more reliable than draft stuff. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. As we saw a couple of weeks ago. So the NFC North comes through town. I think, as you mentioned, the Packers and the Vikings and the Raiders will actually head to Chicago and to Detroit. Speaking of Detroit, there was a lot of, I think, surprise around the NFL fans that the Lions will open up the season on a Thursday night. But it doesn't really matter, Mike. We're going to tune in and watch, right? Would you guys be busier if it was, say, Cincinnati or a Super Bowl rematch? Does it matter?
Opening week is opening week, Kenny. And it's one of the top 5 weeks of the year. But it still befuddles me that they would put the Lions. I thought this was supposed to be a national game to open up the year with the Super Bowl champion and then another, but whatever. It's like putting the Charlotte Hornets on Christmas Day for the NBA, I think. But it is what it is. Go, for those that don't understand the whole state of Michigan, go watch Roger and me. Go research the water in Flint. You'll understand what I have to deal with here. But I speculated this earlier this morning on VSiN, Kenny. Could the NFL schedule have been influenced by the betting markets and that Detroit was a very popular futures team?
Oh.
They're the favorite, almost even money favorite to win the North. They were bet heavily to win the NFC, bet to win the Super Bowl. Do you think that plays a factor in putting them on a primetime spot early when a lot of people have future tickets on them? And at least they'd like to see them before they tear those tickets up.
Yeah, well, because really, let's be honest, right? If your team's not playing the Lions or it's not 11:30 in the morning on Thanksgiving Central Time, who watches the Lions? Now, we will, because I think their arrow is pointing up, but who watches the Lions?
Well, all these Lions fans here, you would think they won the Super Bowl. I said, why are you so excited about starting 0-1? I don't get it.
Right. Yeah. When will you come out with point spreads for week one?
They'll work on it. Maybe, perhaps we'll have them up by early next week. I know some places will have them up probably before the end of the day tomorrow. But really, we're focused on the rules for the contest right now, and then we'll probably get week one up here in the next 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. Well, the ones that come out, the next day or two, pretty low limits, I would assume, right?
Yeah, of course. It's low, and then, they're dime limits, and then, as we get closer, they'll raise the limits.
All right, good stuff. Well, it's kind of an historic day in sports betting here today. It was 5 years ago today in New Jersey that, the Supreme Court actually ruled that PASPA was no longer valid, which opened up the door for sports wagering to be legalized Depending on what states wanted to offer it. New Jersey was very quick to jump in. Joe Asher and company, they'd been all set up at Monmouth Park in New Jersey, waiting for that day. New Jersey went first. In the 5 years, has it grown to the extent that you thought it would from your outpost in Las Vegas?
I think quicker, Kenny. I mean, in 5 years, where are we at 37, 30? We're getting close to, we're at 75, getting close to 80% of the states. Kentucky comes online. Massachusetts just did. So, I mean, there'll be some that probably, Utah probably never will. And
Right.
I don't know about Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows about California and Texas? It's very strange, some of the bigger states and what goes on. But I think it's grown, if you would have asked me 5 years ago how many states would have it in 5 years, I'd say, 10, 8, 10.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's gone well so far. I mean, different states write different rules, and some are more business friendly. I got to tell you, the ones that are more business friendly are more customer friendly too, because it's all about the tax rate and what you have to put straddles on your customers.
Yeah, you're 100% right, which is why I think we can say this, right? Which is why Circa doesn't want to go to New York or states
Nope.
like that. It's just your
Tennessee
business model.
There's high barriers to entry with these ridiculous $10 and $15 million licenses. And then if the tax rate's 50%, how are you going to have a 4% hold? You can't. And you got an excise tax on futures, and you got gaming tax. It's just, so we have to look for states with a low barrier to entry and states that have reasonable business conditions.
Yeah. What's holding California up? Are there too many people that want their hand in the pie?
They fought each other. They did everything they could. The group of 4 or 5, whatever, the DraftKings, FanDuel, that bill against the natives bill, and they spent all their money attacking the other bill. If both bills would have passed, and we talked to the state treasurer of California last year, Derek said to her, if both bills pass, what happens? She said, then the legislature gets together and drafts a law that encompasses both of them. But instead, they tried to defeat the other one so that they had control, and it ended up 70% voted against both of them. Amazing. And spent hundreds of millions of dollars campaigning.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not surprised. So with this, as you mentioned, 36, 37 states, more coming on board all the time. Have you noticed this in Las Vegas? Las Vegas is an event town, right? You're not going to fly to Iowa to watch the Super Bowl. You're going to go to Las Vegas or Nevada. Has it affected you?
It's still a destination. I mean, unless they hold the Super Bowl at Dalzell Field in Dubuque, no one's going to fly to Iowa for the Super Bowl. But I think it becomes just like when Iowa and Mississippi got gaming and the riverboats said, oh, Vegas is done. No, it's just more people are trained because they have more access to gaming, and then it's still a destination. If Montana was the only state that had sports wagering, and then all the rest of them got it, it probably would affect Montana. But people come to Vegas for the experience, and it could be the food, it could be the shows, it could be many different things. Now you're probably going to have 4 professional sports teams here in the next 3 years, right? There's many different reasons to come. So we're still the experiential place. So I don't think it's hurt us at all. It's just provided more training ground, more minor league system.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. We got to town on Sunday, which is the day after the Kentucky Derby. There was a ton of people at the airport, and the Derby is a perfect example, right? It's still one of the, if you can't get to Louisville, but you want to be a part of where people are going to be, there's going to be a crowd of people. You can dress up, you can do what you want to do. Las Vegas is one of those places that still draws a crowd the first Saturday in May.
Oh, it's great to see the people, how dressed up they were. And I mean, we had a bunch of football coaches come here that normally get together with their wives and actually go to Churchill Downs, and they decided to come. Now, they normally do a Vegas trip every year and stay at Cosmo. They stayed at Cosmo because they had the relationship, but came and spent the whole day here. We got them 3 booths in the book. They bet the races all day. Then they went with their wives to the fancy party up at the Legacy Club, and they absolutely loved it. And 3 of them have written me nice emails saying what a great time they had and their wives had, and they'd love to be back again next year.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that. All right, so PASPA is here. It's not going away. I don't think. And you know what this last couple of weeks shown, including here in our state, in your home state of Iowa, with what we think is an underage betting scandal a little more. It's completely different what's going on in Alabama. The safety checks work, Mike. The rules that were put in place, the safeguards that are put in place, they work.
Yes, they do. And we're seeing that now as things are uncovered. I really think as we evolve here, though, the rules have to change about who can bet and who can't. Who cares if
I
an Iowa
agree.
wrestler makes a bet on the Golden State Laker game? I mean, who cares if you're not betting on your own sport? Same thing with professional athletes. If you're not betting on your own sport, who cares whether you do it from the parking lot of your training facility? I mean, you have sports books in the stadium. So I think the rules are sort of antiquated. Maybe it'll take another couple years to get more reasonable with it. But when you have so many people betting, well, it makes no sense to me.
No, you're 100% right. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about what's going on in the world of sports. Again, the schedule is coming out here in about 15 minutes as we sit and record this week's episode of The Hook. We'll talk more about it next week. Does it matter to you who plays on Thanksgiving?
I see
It's
it.
just
I
one of
think it's
those
going to be
days that
all
everybody's
NFC.
going to watch.
All NFC teams. Doesn't really matter. The night game matters a little bit, depending on the matchup. But the morning games is look. The only people coming down are the people in the hotel. The locals aren't coming out to watch. They're having dinner with their friends, right? So the locals are affected by the attractiveness of the night matchup. The other ones for Thanksgiving for us, it's going to be the people in the hotel, and they're here, so they're going to watch. So the first two games, which Detroit and Dallas, that doesn't really matter. Sometimes you want to get more of a compelling matchup in the evening game that has more national appeal.
How will an NFL game on Black Friday, a day that college football not owns, they've certainly expanded their profile over the last few weeks. How will that NFL do? And it's not going to be on network TV. That's going to be on Amazon or wherever it's going to land. Yeah. How will that do? It's the NFL.
It's the NFL, so it'll do okay. But still, look at they have so many of these traditional matchups that are, it's Iowa, Nebraska, these teams that always played on that Black Friday at Cincinnati, whatever, they're good games and they're important late in the year in conferences, often the last conference game, and they decide champion. So I still think college overall will remain king that day with only it's an NFL game. So people will watch it and bet on it if they can get to it.
Speaking of betting on the NFL, the draft is over. The schedule is out. What does that do for your futures business?
Yeah, the schedule coming out now, people are going to study the schedule and they're going to start to come out and make their future bets. This is when it'll start now because now people can get into it. People will evaluate schedules. They'll evaluate other teams. They'll say, well, the Eagles have a number one schedule, but it doesn't look like a number one schedule. We're high on this. We're high on that. And that's it. Those are the main components now of what it takes to build a rating on a team. And so there's not that much uncertainty from here. So now people are starting to get their firm opinions.
For you personally, is there a number that you look for? I mean, will you bet a team under 20-1? Or if you think the team is just so good, you swallow hard and you take 15? Is there a number that moves your needle?
I very rarely make a preseason bet in the NFL. I do it in hockey and I do it in baseball. Yep. I really don't do it in the other sports. Even college basketball, I don't do it. It doesn't move me. I think there's more value in season if a team you think they're coming up on a stretch. Evaluate the next 3 games that the team's going to play if you're looking to make a future wager. Because in a month, will your ticket have value that you can basically make a profit on it? It's so important. People bet futures on teams that are underdogs that week. Why would you ever do that? Your ticket's going to go down in value if they lose the next game. You've got to think ahead. It's a bad mistake is a better.
That's interesting. I never thought of that, but you're 100% right now that I do. All right, let's move on from the NFL. Does you have anything else?
No, I do not.
All right, let's real quick on basketball. Just Matt and I, Van Winkle, were talking before we hit the record button. Just what the Lakers mean to Las Vegas and how popular that team is, and we saw it firsthand. The Warriors had some fans in the book too, but the series has been, with the exception of last night, the game stunk last night. But boy, Warriors and Lakers fans, they really you know that they're there when those two teams are playing each other.
The Warriors probably the second most popular team here because of Steph Curry. I always tell you, Steph Curry's like Pat Mahomes. He has an appeal to almost all people, and kids love him. Right? He's a great face, so not controversial in any way.
Yeah.
but it's such a mega series, and it was going to go deep. And now I don't, as a handicapper, I mean, that was free money last night. I thought
I agree.
that was just free
Yeah,
money.
me too.
I mean, if there's ever free money, you could have laid 6, 6.5, 7, all the way up to 8. Now 8 goes to 3, an 11-point swing as they go to LA. So you have to think about, what does that mean? Is home court worth 5.5 points both way? I don't know what to say. Golden State, you can shop around and get them 2-1 still to win the series if you believe in them. We certainly don't want people to bet the Lakers because, we have got a 7-figure liability of the Lakers. So it's some very interesting situations because I know it's probably just tipping out too. I mean, the Celtics are what, plus 135 to win the series. They got to go to Philadelphia now and win 2. Some great betting opportunities here, I think. And I think the playoffs have been very compelling. Very compelling from the matchup standpoint in the NBA and from the uncertainty standpoint, I guess, in hockey. It's just, tonight's the biggest game for me as far as my betting is because I need Dallas to move on. So they've got to win tonight. I've not put $1 on hedging Seattle. I think Dallas is the better team. Doesn't mean they're going to win. I don't know that Ottinger's played well in any of the 4 games.
He hasn't. He's been bad.
He hasn't. Robertson's sort of disappeared. So, and they're still 2-2. So I think that bodes well for them, right? Now I need the Knights to beat Edmonton, but God, they weren't even competitive in their 2 losses. So that's hard. Still no word on Pietrangelo. I can't believe he doesn't get suspended. I think he should get suspended for 2 games minimum personally. And I just think that's such a dirty play. And
did you see how he's holding his stick?
Oh,
he was like this. It was like an axe, like a weapon.
Yeah. It
wasn't like you normally
knocked out. If Draisaitl would have been knocked out for the series, I think you suspend Pietrangelo the rest of the series. I think he's out as long as Draisaitl would have been out.
Yeah,
but I can't believe he's not going to get a suspension. They still haven't announced anything.
He's got to. I think they're going to do. I think they're going to even it up. I think that's why they gave Nurse a game
1-1
because they could. Yeah, because they could have rescinded that. They're going to take the easy way out and take Pietrangelo out of the game. Carolina tonight, they can wrap it up against the Devils. What's gone on there with as far as New Jersey? Look, I think New Jersey's a team you want to buy stock in. They're not going away. Their window's wide open, but I'm not sure this is their year.
They lead 1-0 at the end of 1 in Carolina. So. I was checking because I bet under 1.5, and I was too late to go over a half. I could have middled it, and then they scored with 5 minutes to go. But I said I thought they'd win on the road tonight. I don't know that they're going to win Game 6 at home, but this East is so wide open. I don't think Toronto's out of it yet. Every game's tight and closely played there. Wold played good last night. Yeah. They get the crowd behind him. I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked if Toronto came back and won the series. I also wouldn't be shocked if Florida goes to the final. Neither of those things would shock me. This just the way this playoffs has gone. There's nothing's a sure thing. I mean, the only sure thing is the Oilers power play.
Yeah, that's automatic. We were doing our show, Trent and I, at Stadium Swim, and of course the board's right in front of us. We were looking at the futures for the series. I said, Condon, at 6.5 to 1, I think the Leafs are worth a play to come back and win this series. They're plus 650. Why not take? You're crazy. That's not going to happen. Teams come back in hockey when they're down 3-0. It's happened a few times. One of them, you can't say that about the NBA very much or any of the other sports, but when it's an NHL team, there's been some within the last few years have done it.
Oh, it's possible.
I don't think it's crazy.
I don't think it's crazy either, but every game has been close. Florida hasn't dominated them. Every game is a 1-goal margin in the third period, right? So, I mean, they've just been very close games and they hadn't gotten over the hump. They got to win 3 more close games probably, but it's possible.
And 2 of them are going to be in Toronto. Well, back to the NBA for just a second. Do the Lakers need to win on Friday night? Because I don't see them going back to Golden State winning.
Just like I did think the 76ers have to win tonight too. I don't think they can go win a Game 7 in Boston. I don't think they can go win. Lakers can go win a Game 7 in Golden State either.
Mm-hmm. What do Game 7s mean for the book as far as handle wise?
Well, they're crazy, and the atmosphere is everything, and we get it increases. Let's just say the average right on games 1 through 6. It's going to increase that by 30 to 35% for
really that much.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I think I'll ask you that question on the radio tomorrow. That one surprises me. That's a good number. Well, let's finish up a couple of minutes on baseball since the last time we spoken. It sounds like maybe the A's have a new ballpark destination. Are you buying that they're going to take the Tropicana spot?
Because the Tropicana, they're not going to ask for $500 million from the state, and they were running out of time with the stations deal. Like I said, the state legislature only meets for 6 months every other year, and they're going home at the end of May. They couldn't have got the deal done. But does that mean Tropicana is going to be a done deal? No, but stations, I think, is out. So
gotcha.
I told you the history of this A's and all these stadium deals they keep saying they have that aren't true. It just keeps, and if it all falls apart, it all falls apart. As far as I'm concerned, I won't shed too many tears, but for now, it looks like the Tropicana deal is the one moving forward.
Right on the strip. Did you ever spend much time at the Tropicana?
I took my son to the Shark Reef, and I think I might have saw a show there once, but that's it. I never gambled there. Not much time at all.
Yeah, we had one of our books was the Tropicana. That's the only reason I visited. I've never stayed there. Never did. I didn't need to stay there. Baseball from this week. Other than the A's, what's caught your attention this week? Anybody on a run?
Thought the Orioles proved that they're an up-and-coming team in the series against Tampa Bay. The pitching was there. They're going to be an interesting team. I definitely think they're a playoff team in the American League, probably a wild card team, obviously, with Tampa playing this well. But that's a good ball club there. They might be a top 5 ball club, maybe top 4 ball club. I mean, I put if I had to power rate everybody right now, I still think Atlanta's the best team.
Me too.
Tampa's continuing to play well. You got to put them right there. So I'd put them second. I think Toronto, tough loss for Toronto and Philly. Gaussman was throwing 98, 99 that whole game. That's a horrific loss.
Terrible.
A horrific loss there.
Error. Right.
Yeah. I put, I put Toronto right up there with anybody. Houston's probably still going to be there at the end of the day too. And then the Dodgers are playing awful well. If I'd have told you Clayton Kershaw would be the first 6-game winner in the National League, what odds would you need to take it on that bet, Kenny?
High. Where does he rank? Is he our generation's? I mean, this block of 10 years, he's got to be in any conversation as the best pitcher in baseball.
Well,
over that period of time,
I think he's Peyton Manning.
Okay,
he's the best regular season pitcher. Like Peyton Manning was the best regular season quarterback.
Yeah, he was.
They both got one title. They both won one. Now Manning
got 2, but
off in the playoffs as Kershaw's been. I mean, his number's not good in the playoffs. Yeah. Look, he very quietly won his 200th game. What was it, 2 weeks ago?
Recently, yeah.
He's 288 at that point. Not even close. He had the highest winning percentage of anybody that won 200 games. And of everybody that won 200 games in Major League Baseball, and it's how many, 80 guys or whatever, he's second in ERA. Second in lifetime ERA, only to Walter Johnson. So, I mean, how can you not say he's an all-time great?
Yeah, he is. We'll end it on this. This is a good one.
To me, who's the best pitcher? Who's the best right-handed pitcher and left-handed pitcher in history that you saw pitch?
Saw personally pitch?
I have my answer. I have my answers. On TV.
Randy Johnson.
Okay.
Randy Johnson would be my lefty. Oh, boy. There's so many of them. I mean, Verlander's got a bunch of Cy Youngs. I love what Jack Morris did. Dave Stieb was my guy. That's really tough. Who's your guy? Pedro?
If Pedro of my kind of generation, I would say Bob Gibson was the best right-hander of all time.
Okay.
And Koufax left-hander. But I still think it's Pedro for me. I thought he was the most dominant pitcher for the longest time as a right-hander. And I agree with you. Nobody was better than Randy Johnson. I mean, he threw a perfect game at age 40.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
He was pretty darn good. All right, here's one. Which of these two young upstarts will win their league's respective championship first? The Baltimore Orioles or the New Jersey Devils?
Well, I'm going to say Baltimore. I'm going to say the Orioles because I think you can build a team around Rauschman. I really do.
No, you should.
And
Yeah.
and they've got some good young arms, Kenny. I like their young starting pitchers. They're starting to. You saw it last year, Kramer
Right.
and Wells, and you know,
Yep.
and we don't even have Johnny Means pitching right now, right? So I mean, he's missing from the whole.
He's
rotation,
close though,
so
isn't he?
I think he's. I think
Yeah.
he's back in June. So I think the Orioles. I think it's hard to say in hockey because you have to have so much luck to win 16 games and win a Stanley Cup. You can be the best team every year, not get out of the first round. So, how many years does Lindy Ruff have in him?
Boston Bruins.
Is he going to make a run here, Ruff? Will he do another 3 or 4 years? They might. They got a good young team. They got it. They got to get a consistent goaltender. Yep. Maybe Schmidt can be the guy. Vanacek has done well coming.
You know who's going to be their goalie?
Who?
You know who I want them to? You know who I want them to go out and get? Connor Hellebuck, because my squad is about to rebuild, and if you could take a couple of those young pieces off the Devils, that gives them a Vezina caliber goaltender right off the bat.
I'd like the Knights to get Hellebuck. I think the Knights would be real good with him.
Yeah, they would be absolutely. And
they don't have a number one for me. When you have 8 goaltenders, you don't have any goaltender. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and they've got 8. Next week, Mike and I will talk about the NFL schedule and what we've seen and how the betting public has reacted a week into it. Mike, I know you're busy. Thanks for finding time to do this. We'll talk to you on the radio tomorrow morning, 10:05 your time, 12:05 with Trent and I. And that's going to do it for another episode of The Hook. Thanks for being with us. We will see you next time on the Iowa Everywhere Network.